I think we're live. Are we showing live?
I don't think we're online. I don't see us on.
It says starting. Oh, there we go. It should say now.
Are we?
Refresh your page.
I'm on my phone. I don't see it. Are you seeing it on your page?
Let me see.
Oh, I see it now.
Okay. All right. Everyone gets to watch our little, not
Our
sure
little,
if we're live, chat.
Are we here? Are we here now? I think we're here.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Change Physician Friday Faves. You might be seeing it on another page of mine as well, on my Challenge Doctor page. But we are going live from, well, Austin, Texas, and we'll just say Oregon, generally
the
speaking.
Oregon coast.
The Oregon coast.
The Oregon coast.
Beautiful. There's actually, I think Portland is a sister city of Austin. Might have to define that or figure out how to define that. But
it sounds like Austin's a sister city to all the cool cities anyway, because I think didn't last week you said
Adelaide in Australia is a sister city.
San Diego, I thought was
San Diego.
San Diego.
Yeah,
so that's it's just like it gets pointless. It's like, oh, we're sister cities with Seattle and Adelaide and Portland and whatever. Well, who are you not sister cities with would be the question that we should be answering.
Well, I could say a few, but yeah, I'll get some riled up emotions. But anyway, well, as we said, we'll do our Friday faves. I'll say something that was my favorite thing of the week, and so will Kevin, and some other banter in between, whatever we feel is appropriate. So, do you want me to go first, Kevin, or you want to talk?
Yeah, you need to go first because my I blanked out and I forgot what my favorite fave was, so I need to remember what it is now. So bad.
Memory is your favorite, your Friday fave. I'm just kidding. So we just got done with an interview with a physician out of the UK. His name is Dr. Ali Abdal. And we will be featuring him later in our podcast. And I'm sure you'll see some things on social media later on this year. But was just I just was thinking how amazing, aside from the pandemic and all these things, how amazing is it when we can meet people because of social media? I mean, I think that's the beauty of it, is connecting with people and literally having a conversation live across, as they'd say, across the pond, and just really getting acquainted and building relationships with people that you probably would have never met if it wasn't for the fact we have the internet. It's got its pros and cons like just about anything else, but I just got to say, I'm just super stoked. This is the funnest part of what we do on a podcast is seeking out really cool people and just people doing some amazing things and literally giving us an excuse to get into their world and develop a relationship that we probably wouldn't have had. Thoughts?
I love that, and I think that is amazing. And that brings into the mind that people always talk about, oh, the internet's so bad, and this is so bad, and social media has done some bad things, and it's not. That is definitely true. There are bad things with anything, but it's sort of like the double-edged sword, right? There's a usefulness to us, and it isn't all bad. It's really the tool that you can use, and social media for me has just provided such if we didn't really have social media, we probably never would have met.
No,
I mean, we were introduced by somebody else, but the only reason we ever reached out to that individual was because of kind of the media and internet and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's been fun. And particularly with the episodes that we've been doing is, I guess this brings it back to the change position. The reason we started doing this was this idea about burnout and the idea that, you feel so alone if you're thinking differently or wanting something differently or not confining to what the system's sort of telling you. And what the internet has allowed us to do, and Zoom and Facebook and all this other stuff, is to connect with a bunch of people so that you're not alone and you're not crazy. And yeah, I totally agree with you. It's been an absolute treat, and to talk to somebody in a completely different healthcare system who interestingly was talking about his colleagues who were, what would he say, that out of the 50% of UK physicians that he had asked, so this was an informal poll, and he said, if you won the lottery, would you continue to practice medicine? And this is in the UK. and half of them said no. And then there was this idea that somehow the United States is the golden land, and like, oh, if we just made it to the United States and became, got to practice in the United States, then we'd make a lot of money and everything would be better. And I was just like, wait a second. I guess the more money, maybe. Anyway, it was a fascinating discussion, which we only had because of social media.
Oh, absolutely. And it just, and I'll let the interview speak for itself. I probably shouldn't dive into every detail because that's the joy of the conversation. But speaking of joy, I mean, this whole Change Physician podcast, I know you mentioned about burnout, but ultimately I feel like we want to try to be a source of, hope, inspiration, or direction for people that want more joy in their life. And, of course, we're coming from a slant that, we're physicians. And so we understand that perspective and that process and that journey. And so I think that we can relate a lot to a lot of other physicians, but a lot of the content, a lot of what we're discussing is relevant, across the population. There are a lot of things that just affect us as, being a human being. So we all need a sense of community and relationships. And I think, during this pandemic, I think a lot of people, the silver lining there is people are realizing that, okay, maybe I underestimated how important it was for me to be connected with people in this village I live in, or this city, or this world that I live in. And I think as much as the internet, social media doesn't give you the full feel of that in person and all the nuances of having an interaction with people, I still feel like it gives us a chance to at least communicate and to start building some, or at least maintaining some of those relationships until we can, feel more comfortable with that full experience. So, I think the podcast kind of helps us bring some of those things to light.
Oh, absolutely. And that will bring me to a couple of my favorite Friday faves.
Oh,
a couple of them. This isn't what my originals were, but I just wanted to do a shout out here to Dr. Taylor Brana of the Happy Doc podcast, who gave us a 5-star review, because that's the other thing. The Change Physician is now available on iTunes and other podcast networks. So we really appreciate that review there, as well as Dr. David Durginas, my old Navy friend, who also runs the Doctors Unbound podcast, who also gave us a 5-star review saying, this is a must-listen podcast for physicians. Dr. Katie and Dr. Cuccaro create great chemistry, and along with their interesting guests, make for an insightful and educational podcast. And I guess we do have some good chemistry.
Yeah, I think, we can banter. We have our own strengths, and we just kind of somehow fill it in with the two of us.
Well, my mom said that she can't wait to meet you.
Oh.
And then my sister said after our second Friday fave, she goes, you tell her she needs to watch The Princess Bride. So you were supposed to watch that last weekend. Did you do it?
No, I haven't done it yet. But see, that's what happens. I'm one of those people, ask my husband, I just somehow prioritize all these other tasks that I feel like are more important. But I'm realizing I need to expand myself beyond my physician role or my podcaster role and add more things to, add more substance beyond just, facts and knowledge and tasks and all that stuff.
Well,
that's my weakness. Everyone, it is on live on Facebook. I need to do more social, fun, entertainment things so I can actually engage in conversation about it without saying, I didn't watch that.
I am so shocked because you seem so social, and I know you're very social. So,
well, it depends how you define that. Like, I'm not up to date on like the most recent. Of course, my husband's the one that helps fill in the gaps for me when it comes to what's coming out or the movies and actors and actresses. But being able to like tie things together from 15 years ago when I was in the middle of my training and I somehow had some kind of, my husband swears that I went to another planet for about 10 years.
Well, I think everybody did though.
Yeah.
Like there was, so when we moved to San Diego, like the first year or two we were there, our kids were little, and I was just practicing just started practicing in the Navy. My family used to drive down from Nevada to visit and put on some music. And I think I might have, this is pretty good. What is it? And it was Lady Gaga. it was my mom playing it, and she's like, "You don't know who this is?" And I'm like, I don't know when the last time was I listened to, whatever record is. Luckily, we listen to a lot of music now, but it was like you said, maybe not quite 10 years, but there was a big chunk of time when you don't know what's going on. You can put your head up and see what's happening. So
Yeah, don't be an ostrich.
no, don't be an ostrich. But there's a difference there. You're saying social media, and I think, or not social media, you are a very social person. And I think that's different than being up to date on all the new public entertainment news. I don't know what we would call that, like the TMZ junk.
What would we call it? Like pop culture or some other realm like that. It's not. Sometimes I think it's strange because I am completely opposite of my husband, and he can engage in conversation and all these things that in my brain doesn't put attention to those things, because in the brain that's been trying to accomplish, get things done, finish medical school, all my training, those things don't seem relevant or important. And somehow I'm really good at compartmentalizing my life, where I just focus on the things, the task at hand, and can completely somehow not see this other stuff, or just choose not to pour my time into that. But the value is probably more along the lines of just socializing or finding points of connection or interests that people may have in those things that I don't. Not that I'm not curious and interested, and but I don't know. I think I'm not a small talker. Most people know I'm kind of a thinker, but I think I'm a very friendly person and I'm sociable. But yeah, but I'm more of a teacher, and I want to have I don't know. I don't know how to describe that. Maybe you can help me out.
Well, I'm just thinking, if you think you're the non-social one, then
but you have to understand the extremes.
I'm way off on the other extreme, because I see you and you're so bubbly and friendly with everybody, and then there's me.
Yeah, I think one of my best friends, she was like the maid of honor at my wedding. One of them, I actually had two, because she was kind of from my earlier life, but she's still a long-term best friend. I never really thought of myself this way, but she was just like, you're the eternal optimist. Like, despite anything and everything that you go through, you just, I don't know, maybe it's just I'm really good at rationalizing and twisting it in a way that I don't have to, feel the pain of stuff going on, but the framework that I live in, I try to see that I guess the silver lining in everything. And it's like, I tell people I can be the best defense attorney for either side. Like I can see their viewpoint, and maybe it's part of that, I think a lot of women tend to be pleasers, in the sense that they just, the one thing, don't want to rattle the waters and just keep things peaceful and be diplomatic. Not everyone's like that, obviously, but so I don't know. Maybe it's just my personality.
Well, I think you're definitely more social and bubbly than me.
So it's you, me, and then my husband over here.
Well, Corey's in a whole nother world, right? There's people like them. I have, some other friends and who are like that as well, that you just plop them down in some strange town by themselves, and by the end of, if not the first day, maybe the second day, the entire town will know them, the entire town will love them. And that's a whole different boat. But
the energy is beyond understanding. Anyway, sorry, I went on a tangent there, but
no, that's always good. Your candidates are always interesting. So
my candidates, is that what you said?
Your candid tangents, your tangent candidates.
Candid tangents.
Candid tangents. Yeah. They're always good. But, well, what else have we got?
Did you already say your faves?
I cheated and I said it was the Taylor and Dave with their 5-star reviews on iTunes. All you have to do is go to iTunes right now, find the Change Physician podcast, and you can put in your rating, and then maybe you will be read on the next Friday Faves. We'll read your name. But that's because I had a Friday fave at the beginning of this week. I was way on top of it. I was like, I am going to say this for my Friday fave. And then I forgot what it was. It probably wasn't as good as watermelon juice, because I still think that is probably the best Friday fave out there. because it's so awesome.
And I still haven't bought a Vitamix yet. I still haven't.
Oh my God, have just failed. There was only 2 things you needed to do. Watch The
It's
Princess
not
Bride and buy a
failure,
Vitamix.
Kevin. It is a learning process.
Well, obviously you haven't learned because
I need to learn more before I decide
you don't
to
need
purchase.
you do not need to learn anymore.
Well, I have a few expenses in other areas, and I'm just gonna have to spread it out. So,
Okay,
I'm a
fine.
part-time
That's a
physician.
different thing. If you're saying you're focused and you're moving to that gourd versus you're just like, oh, I haven't bought a Vitamix. That sounds like you don't want a
That might be a good Christmas
Vitamix.
gift to myself.
Christmas, that is true.
That would probably be a good thing.
Yeah, it's a long ways off though. It's a lot of delayed gratification right there. A lot of watermelon juice.
Hey, we're used to it as physicians. There's a lot of delayed gratification.
That's true.
This is not a difficult thing to do. So as long as I know I see that vision, I can work in that direction, and I can make it happen.
All right. Well, that's acceptable then, I guess.
So. Then I'll make some video about me using the Vitamix.
The Vitamix, yeah. We'll do an episode on the Vitamix. We can compare Vitamix experiences with them.
I'm sure there's tons of videos on.
Oh, there are. There are whole stations devoted to the Vitamix. I think I told you there was one that they literally blend stuff. I think it's Vitamix. Maybe it's Blend Tech, but they grind like cell phones and I don't know, wrenches and stuff in this thing.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So have there been any injuries on someone's hand from a Vitamix?
If
it can pulverize.
Don't put your hand in there. That's what you
no joke. I'm just saying, has there been anybody that's had like a Vitamix injury?
Well, we live in America, so I'm guarantee you yes.
Okay, well,
right.
Good point.
Well, I remember hearing the story. This might be an urban myth, but remember the lawnmowers, and they had that little warning on the bottom: don't put your fingers down there.
Yeah.
And the myth I don't know if it's true or not, so we'll just call it an urban myth, was that 2 people, their hedge trimmer broke, and so they decided to grab the lawnmower and lift it up and carry it over the top of the hedge to trim the hedge, and lost a number of digits doing that and sued and won. Now, again, I have not verified that, so that could be completely urban myth.
Check your sources, people.
It aligns why we have these stupid little things about like, don't put your hands in the Vitamix. It'll blend your finger into a bloody soup. So, although that does, did you see, if you didn't see this, I'm going to be so mad. The Goonies?
Get ready. I've seen Goonies.
Oh my God, so good.
But I wouldn't be able to most guys, they play the thing over and over again, and this is a generalization, but they somehow can like regurgitate like the lines and all these.
Because it's awesome. It's one of the classic movies every person has to see at least once in their lifetime.
It was a long time ago.
Well,
I can't tell you the lines.
In living in Oregon, that's one of my things. I'm like, we live in Oregon. I go, and Astoria is north of us. And what's Astoria? That's where they lived in the Goonies, you ding dongs. Come on.
Well, you're so close to it. You
closer
know that
now.
better.
Well, I made sure that we went there one day with my family. As soon as we moved to Oregon, I'm like, we're driving to Astoria. We're going to check this out. And then we went to Cannon Beach to see the haystacks, because that's where the end of the movie was, when the pirates visit. Anyway, back to point here. That's my non-candid tangent. Was in the scene of the Goonies. There's a scene when Chunk, who's the little chunky boy, gets caught by the criminals, and they're trying to figure out all the stuff. And they're like, tell us what you know. And then he starts telling all this stuff about how he went and made fake throw up in the movie theater and made the throw up.
God.
And they're going through the stories. But the way they were trying to get him is they had the blender, and they were throwing tomatoes in. And that's what they were going to do. And they were going to put his hand in the blender. But they didn't have a Vitamix. So if they had a Vitamix, they probably would have been able to blend Chunk's hand up. They didn't end up blending Chunk's hand because it was a children's movie, and he gave him all the information with really no torture at all. But anyway. Yeah.
Well, we can't end on that.
Can't end on the blending hands up with a Vitamix.
You can't end on pulverizing a hand in a Vitamix. Or a change in the outcomes of a movie because of the type of blender they used.
Well, okay. Well, what are the good things? You can make soup in the Vitamix without heating it. The Vitamix goes so fast, and if you leave it on for like 10 minutes, the friction will actually cook the soup and make it hot. Yeah. And
there's no problems with the motor by keeping it on that long?
10-year warranty on that motor, man. You can power a jet boat with that thing. It's awesome.
Wow. Well, that could change our smoothie experience for sure.
It could bring it to a whole nother level of smoothie.
Yeah, and sometimes the best thing is if there's some vegetables or fruit that's not quite exciting to eat raw, right? The state that it's in, I would expect or suspect that, it's usually what I do. Either you mix it in with stuff, make it taste really good in a smoothie, or you cook it, so it doesn't have that weird going a little bit bad, not quite totally bad, but not appealing raw. Why are you laughing at me?
Because I'm just like, if it's not appealing raw, why would I want to eat it in any other way? Really?
Well, it's sometimes you lose a little bit of this crispness to the veggies, and they're getting a slightly soggy, but they're not quite like horrid or smelling bad yet. They're on that on that edge,
the cusp of rotting.
So you want the nutrients, but you don't want to experience it that way.
You want the nutrients, but don't want to taste the rot, is what you're saying.
And that's not rot. It's just getting a little flimsy. It's just so you don't, it's unless you just like wasting stuff all the time,
I don't like to waste stuff.
Yeah. So, if you can capture it right when it's, about to go bad, then you can throw it in a smoothie and you can't even tell a difference, or you throw it on the, the oven or in the stovetop and cook it with some onions and some other stuff, and you're good to go.
All right. Sounds good to me.
That's my tip for the day.
take your food that's almost rotting and put it in the Vitamix.
It's not rotting yet. It's not rotting. It's just not as fresh looking.
If you waited a couple minutes, it would probably be on the rotting side, I think is what you're saying.
Well, anyway, for those of you that want to, listen to our future episodes, whether it's joining us on Friday Faves or some of these amazing guests that are joining our podcast, you can go to thechangephysician.com and feel free to sign up for updates, especially for any upcoming new things that have not been quite released yet. That might be some cool things to be part of.
Super fun stuff coming up.
So a lot of things in the pike right now, and we'll be sharing those as they emerge. And we look forward to seeing you on the next Friday Faves.
See you, folks. We're still streaming live.